Panelists and members of the public could both limit your comments to approximately 2 minutes. We're trying to change the way that we do meetings to be a little bit more efficient. And, for the most part, most comments can be, stated in approximately 2 minutes. And I just want to get that from the outset. I talked to the co-chairs earlier this morning about that. And okay, Polly and Will, off to the races. Go right ahead.
Sure, absolutely. Well, my name is William Ortiz. I am one of the co-chairs of this task force. Polly is my other co-chair. Polly, if you'd like to say hi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our task force meeting.
Thank you. So just want to start off real quickly. We're going to do our best again to stick to our meeting format that we've had for the past 2 months of maintaining a 60-minute meeting. We're going to do our best to try to stay within that. So as Max said, please try to keep your comments as concise as possible within 2 minutes. In addition to that, I'd like to announce when is our next meeting. We had a meeting this morning, and our next public safety task force meeting will be on Wednesday, May 25th, same time, 6:30, same place on Zoom. So we look forward to having you guys and gals and everyone all attend. We have an agenda meeting today. Actually, I'll have Polly run this section. We have a guest speaker, but go ahead, Polly. And
Right, so I'm so pleased again that this evening we have with us not only our president, Diana Blackwell from the Police Service Area 6 Community Council, but we also are going to have a presentation by Detective David Collado, who's going to talk to us about 2 new initiatives that the New York Police Department has introduced. One is the Pop-Up Cop Initiative, and the other one is an advisory council. And so he's going to speak to that. So Detective Collado, if you're there, you're on. We welcome you.
Good evening, all. I have to apologize from the very beginning. We're here at the precinct, and as nothing could be better scripted or planned, we have an individual who's being arrested, and you may hear some vulgar language in the background. Needless to say, he's not happy. So I apologize in advance for that. Yeah, he tends to be a little bit loud. So along with that, I will also apologize for not having video available. NYPD does not provide us with video accessibility. I don't think they trust us very much. But needless to say,
we know you're really very modest and don't want to show off.
That's what it is. But most people don't catch on, but you caught on right away. Thank you very much. But let me be a little bit more serious here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Detective David Collado. I'm here with my partner, Detective Cordell Cheatham. We are the community affairs officers for the NYPD Police Service Area Number 6, or PSA 6, representing the Housing Bureau on West Harlem, or Upper Harlem. A quick background on us. Most people don't know. NYPD, in 1995, NYPD restructured itself. And as part of the restructuring itself, it created 3 patrol boroughs. One was the transit, the other was city, and the third one being the housing police, which was taken over by the city. For whatever reasons, they thought it would be more effective. And ever since then, it has all operated under one umbrella, but in different bureaus. With that, we bring ourselves to PSA 6. PSA 6, or Police Service Area Number 6. We are responsible for a total of 21 developments within the confines of the 24th, the 26th, and the 32nd precinct. When we originally had started, we covered everything from, I believe, 59th Street up all the way up to Dykeman Houses. A few years ago, NYPD restructured itself yet again, and they'd tried to limit things a little bit further, and as such, they provided the precincts the responsibilities of handling the housing within their own confines or their areas. That was the 2-0, the 3-0, the 3-3, and the 34th precinct. So we cover everything from 87th Street all the way up to 155th Street. From Broadway, again, I apologize, from Broadway all the way over to Lenox Avenue. With each one of those developments, we have what we call tenant association presidents. These are presidents or individuals who are selected and elected by their residents to represent them throughout whatever issues they may have going on with NYCHA, NYPD, or anyone else. We ourselves here at Police Service Area number 6, we have a representatives that are a certain individual who represents the residents and the community at large. That would be our great Madam President, Diane Blackwell. She's the PSA 6 Community Council President. Your co-chair, Polly Spain, happens to be our treasurer on the board. They're very instrumental in keeping us involved and informed of the needs and issues that plague their respective community and developments. So we definitely appreciate them as we try to expand on that. Moving that forward, PSA 6 as a whole, I'll give you, I won't bore you with too much stats because I'm sure you guys get enough from the news, but I will give you a quick synopsis of how we're doing here at PSA 6 for the 28-day period and the year-to-date. For the 28-day period, for the developments that NYPD PSA 6 covers, we have a total of 15 crimes reported as compared to 9 last year for an increase of 66.7%. Now, let me backtrack for a second. NYPD, this doesn't include all the crimes that may be taking place out in the streets. These will include the 7 majors, as we call them, 7 crimes categories that NYPD tracks, which is murder, rape, robbery, felony assaults, burglary, grand larceny, and grand larceny of an auto. So out of those 7 majors, for the 28-day period, it was, you have a 66.7% increase in crime. That number sounds large, but again, it's in comparison to the same time period as last year. So 15 in comparison to 9. Overall, the PSA 6 for the 28-day period is dead even, 39 crimes to 39. Year to date, the numbers change a little bit. Within the 24th precinct, which is what encompasses Community Board 7, we have 37 crimes compared to 44 last year. So we actually have a 15.9% decrease in crime. Year to date, the PSA as a whole has a 4.5% increase in crime, 139 to 133. So again, don't be fixating too much on the numbers. It's just giving you a quick synopsis of exactly where we stand, where the crime tends to stand within the housing developments in the 24th precinct, which encompasses, again, Community Board 7. Moving on, we have programs that we offer. NYPD, in a few years ago, decided that they wanted to change their approach to policing. Part of the approach that they kind of adopted was more of a community involvement. With that, they pretty much tried to incorporate community leaders, community individuals who as we have, for example, violence interrupters, individuals who can not only represent the community, but also can help us get our messages, our events, our strategies across and better communicate with the residents of the community. Some of these programs that we incorporate are also expanded upon using, anything from our Youth Explorer program. We have what we refer to as YCOs, Youth Coordinating Officers, and we have auxiliary officers, volunteer individuals who help us out in not only being the eyes and ears for us to expand our personnel and deployment out in the streets, but they also become part of the PSAs or the precincts as it stands. We have any programs that extend forward. Usually we enact and we work hand in hand with several organized groups and agencies, different agencies, in order to try to better our community in whatever capacity we can. With that, community affairs officers, Detective Cheatham and myself, we rely on our own partners, our NCOs, our neighborhood community officers. A few years ago, NCOs were established to be almost as development specialists. So these were officers that were hand-selected to work in a particular development and basically get to know everyone, get to know the ins and outs, get to know what are the concerns, the issues, how to not only identify them, but also to resolve them, to act almost as an intermediate with the community and the commanding officers to kind of help alleviate some of the issues and some of the concerns that both the community have, as well as our officers are facing on a day-to-day basis, whatever minor issues, well, minor in comparison to the major crimes, but whatever issues can be resolved at a basic level, they would be tasked to do that. They were also tasked with the responsibilities of also conducting basic preliminary investigations to any more serious issues that may be coming or that may come along. Anything from shootings, anything to burglary, robbery patterns, different types of crimes that may be taking place in the community. They were basically acting as a liaison. And again, up to that, it basically came back down to the community affairs officers. We are, they call us the jack of all trades. We're responsible for basically being that one-to-one liaison with the community leaders and our commanding officer, who happens to be Captain Ralph Johnson. He's been our commanding officer for a little bit over 3 years, which in terms of NYPD time is a long, long time, believe it or not. But with that, Polly had asked me specifically to briefly speak to you about two particular programs that we just enacted. One of them is the Precinct Commander Advisory Council. The other one is the Pop Up with a Cop program. I'll start with the Precinct Commander Advisory Council. Basically, that's another way for our commanding officers, our executives, to have more of a personalized and basically means to communicate with the community. They afford the certain selected individuals, community leaders, the ability to meet up with the commanding officer either on a monthly basis or on a basis as necessary. So it could be either more or less, to basically speak on and help alleviate any issues or problems that may be going on within the communities. They could bring them up personally to the commanding officer, have that more hands-on approach, have a better responsibility and more answers that they can basically turn around and elaborate and communicate to their constituents. The Precinct Commanders Advisory Council is something that was straight up set up by the police commissioner herself. Something that she wanted enacted, and she wanted to make sure that the commanding officers moving forward have more of a pulse on the community, or as we say, are better plugged in to the community. With that, also the other program that was enacted was the Pop Up with a Cop. Although we have changed somewhat our focus to policing back to the more of enforcement, as we have more and more issues with the crimes and the increase in crimes, which is basically happening nationwide, but more particular here in the city, in New York City with NYPD, our numbers going up. One of the things that we want to do is that we want to establish more of a presence in our communities, more specifically in our communities where we normally don't have our appearance or our hands in. So basically, Pop Up with a Cop is a way to help have that presence in the community. It's basically an innovative method way of bringing police into areas of community which lack the engagement for whatever reasons. Basically, it utilizes the NCO's officers, as I mentioned, the YCOs, us, the community affairs, crime prevention, as well as the normal study sector, the same officers that are responding to that 911 calls on every particular tour, the 3 tours that we have. And basically, it basically brings us out to the community, away from the precinct, to kind of alleviate and create more of a personalized approach to better inform the public of issues, events, anything that may be going on. We can better communicate with the community without having to kind of push people out either into electronic devices or, to come into the PSAs or for whatever meetings. It's something where we can, again, hand out different literatures. Crime prevention is big right now, keeping people well informed of issues, of patterns that we have. Sometimes we have robbery patterns, as we have one right now going on in the 32nd precinct in Harlem River Houses. We have a robbery pattern. We have different type of pattern, youth events, anything to try to prevent our youth from being out there, basically keeping them as busy and as engaged as possible to keep them off the streets and out of the bad, away from the bad element. So that's just another means, another tool that we're utilizing, anything that we can utilize. Again, we also partner up with, again, other agencies, other groups to offer different programs and avenues to keep the kids and the youth away from that bad element again. Basically, that is all for me. If you guys have any questions for me, please feel free. I will try to answer them as best as possible.
And I want to thank you so much, Detective Collado. You were very thorough, and I know everyone has loads of questions and comments. But before we go there, I would like for our President, Diane Blackwell, just to kind of talk about what the Community Council does for a minute, and then you guys, we can get into the question comment section.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here, joined with my partner, Polly Spain, who not only serves as the treasurer on our council, but we also have a nonprofit arm of our council, and she, again, serves as our treasurer on the nonprofit. And as the council, we actually serve as the voice of the 21 developments that PSA 6 represents. We are a regular council board as any other board, and everyone serves in a capacity that actually best serves their community. When I say that, we actually have an election, and people, anyone from the 21 developments are allowed to run, let's just say, if they are qualified with the number of meetings. So we are well represented from every development, every campus that falls under the 21 developments. And from there, we're able to engage with every tenant that lives in those 21 developments. We're able to hear what is going on. Many of the problems are the same, but some vary because of the groups that they're in, whether they're a senior group, whether they're a youth group, but we're able to hear them. And we have several people from all over come and speak in one meeting. So we'll have a lot of questions answered. And if not, we'll hear who they would like to hear from, and we're able to get them to come and speak. But we are representative. This board represents housing at its best, with and including and as a partner in YPD. So I'd like to thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, President Blackwell. So now, if anyone has any questions or comments, I see we have 2 hands raised. Shelley, so
Sure.
you can unmute. Shelley Fine.
Okay, I'm here. Hi, how you doing, Diane? Okay, so I have 2 questions, which I think will enlighten people about relationships. Okay, and one, the first is, if something, crime takes place in one of the 3 NYCHA developments in the 24th, okay, which would be the the big one is Douglas, of course, but there's the Hostos, and there's whatchamacallit, Wise Towers and the urban renewal brownstones. Who responds and how to, and the second part is how does the PSA 6 interface with the 24th precinct?
Okay, so thank you for your question. So basically, the way it operates is a system of highest of priority or importance. The way we operate is anything happening. We're all police officers. Anything happening within the developments is usually falls upon the respective PSAs. For us, PSA 6, we covered the developments down there. You mentioned Douglas. Yeah, Douglas is our biggest and probably most problematic development, possibly within the whole entire PSA. But there's a total of actually 7 developments that are broken down in the 24th precinct that we're responsible for. The way it would happen is that generally a 911 call would take place. Our operator would basically assign a PSA. If a PSA 6 unit is not available, then basically the 24th precinct is mandated to respond, either to back us up or to take the main role of answering the job if available. As if anything else, we have basically a system that prevents from no one responding. So if the 24th precinct, let's say hypothetically, wasn't available, they would move over to the adjacent precinct. So that'll be either the 20th or the 26th precinct. We can always extend outward and pull in a unit to respond to the respective jobs. But mainly it'll fall within PSA 6. Depending on the severity of the call, the priority of it, that's the way we respond to the call. If it's a robbery, for example, we will respond to that robbery. If it's a shooting, we'll respond to the shooting prior to the robbery. If it's something where it's, let's say we have a theft of service, for example, which does happen in front of housing. Let's say somebody takes a Uber or some type of taxi or whatever, and they don't want to pay. That'll fall basically towards the bottom of the answering peg. As far as the PSA and their relationship to the 24th precinct, generally the PSA 6, because we're first of all, we're all, again, police officers. The other part is we kind of interdependent on one another. They rely on us the same way that we rely on them, not only to back us up, but just in general with anything that we do. They have functions that they may hold from time to time. They invite us, vice versa. We invite them, depending on what's taking place at a particular time and where exactly, because we have the luxury as well as the burden of stretching ourselves out so thin within the 3 different precincts. We kind of have to keep a good relationship with all 3 of the particular precincts.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Polly, I believe you're talking, but you're muted.
I see Natasha Cosme has her hand up.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. This is my first safety task force meeting, so I'm excited to be here. I have one comment and one question. My comment is that this Sunday and Monday is the Muslim festival of Eid al-Fitr. So I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Eid or an Eid Mubarak if you do celebrate. My question is, and maybe this has been addressed in prior safety task force meetings, but I was wondering about personnel, the number of personnel in the area that we're talking about. I know that at the time of the pandemic, the number of personnel had gone down. There were a lot of early retirements. There were, I think because of COVID, there at least 1 or 2 graduating classes could not be implemented. And I was wondering what the situation is now, numbers-wise, in the area that you serve, and also in general at NYPD, if you're aware of that. And also these personnel, whether it's the YCOs or the NCOs, are they like existing people from the precincts who've been assigned to these new positions, or are they new personnel who are being hired? So effectively an increase in the number of personnel. Thank you.
All right, so thank you for your question. I'm going to try to break it down and answer them as best as I can. As far as personnel, that is our biggest issue here, specifically with PSA 6. We, although we have such a large area to cover, and we're responsible for so much, we're actually amongst the lowest personnel throughout the city as far as NYPD personnel and our officers. With the last police academy class, we received 10 new officers. However, just to let you know how NYPD operates, we lost 12 officers. So in terms of that, we're -2 to begin with right there. So it seems like every time we get, we also lose. Part of what's going on with NYPD right now, and has been going on with NYPD for a while, is obviously not only the restructuring, but also the amount of personnel that we have, amount of officers that we have. Although the NYPD is trying very hard to recruit new officers and try to have more individuals, especially city residents, take the police officers exam and become police officers themselves, I'm not going to lie, it's a bit challenging. A lot of the current events, I don't need to go into them, basically kind of put a black eye and kind of put a little drench or put a little, I don't know the exact term for it, but it's definitely not a good light on our police work and what we're trying to do. Needless to say, again, I've been doing this personally for 25 years. I can tell you I've worked both sides of Harlem, and it's not easy. It's definitely changed a whole lot. But the numbers keep going down. To get back to the question, yes, we have a lot of officers that are retiring. We have a lot of officers that have left NYPD for bigger and better departments. There's issues within NYPD, everything from the pay to just morale in general. Again, it seems at times, I can tell you personally, it seems at times like NYPD is the face of all law enforcement throughout the country and possibly the whole entire world. Something can happen in Minnesota, something can happen in Seattle, and guess who gets the blame for it? We do. It's something that a lot of us have become accustomed to. However, it doesn't make it any better. And I'm not going to lie to you, it doesn't make you feel very rewarded or appreciated. And I think a lot of people that take this job do not understand that when we use the term having a tougher skin, that really does mean you kind of have to take a lot. And because of the times, and again, because of the nature of the work, our personnel is down. To kind of answer another part of your question, as far as, let's say, the 24th precinct, your particular numbers, I don't have the specific numbers. I can't tell you exactly how many officers are assigned to each respective command. However, I can tell you that, again, because the numbers overall have gone down, there is a likelihood that probably the amount of officers out in the streets will diminish a little bit. The NCOs, YCOs, all these other units that we have in our respective commands, they are not brand new officers. As a matter of fact, we have a way of trying to kind of implement and get the new officers enrolled into our day-to-day policing that it's kind of inactive. We don't allow them to basically have just pure contact on their own solely from the very beginning. We kind of, for lack of a better term, we baby them into it. We introduce them slowly to our communities. We have them go out with experienced, seasoned officers. We have what's called our field training officers who will ride with maybe 1, 2, sometimes 3 of our officers, take them along, walk them, through how to handle a job, observe them, and pretty much kind of go back and let the supervisors know exactly how the individual is conducting him or herself. We tend, as a department, we tend not to give the newer officers details, as we call them. So you won't necessarily see them as NCOs or YCOs or community affairs officers, anything like that. For the simple reason that we want them to learn the job. We want them to learn the day-to-day routine. We want them to learn the paperwork, how to interact with the different individuals that you would have to. We consider these units, the NCOs, YCOs, community affairs, we consider that almost like a reward, if you will, for our more seasoned officers who are more experienced and can handle things a lot better. They've seen more, they've experienced more, and we rely on that experience to help them grow and to build that communication and relationship that we have and we need with our communities.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I see someone's hand raised in the attendees, so I'm not the host, so Max or Will can take care of that.
Okay. Cynthia, you are promoted. Just click. Might just take you a minute, but I'll mention it again. Cynthia, if you're there, just click the prompt. I'll send it again just in case.
All right.
There we go.
You have a comment or a question, Cynthia?
Can you hear me now? I
Yeah.
had to wait for it to come through the second time. So yes, 2 things I wanted to say. Number 1, I want to thank Polly and Miss Blackwell, who is truly an icon in the world of NYCHA, for having this meeting, because nobody knows how NYCHA runs like you guys and we do. I want to piggyback off of what Collado and Cheatham, because we love you both, even though one is only here. To piggyback off what they say, PSA 6 is stretched extremely far, and they actually do have less police officers than the precincts do. And we had a meeting over here in my room with Yaguchi and with PSA 6, because it used to always be that they would only, even though whatever the urgency was, let's say if there's a shooting, PSA 6 is going to the shooting. But if I have a senior that's being robbed, okay, that's considered a lower priority. And the 24th used to have this policy where they don't come into the buildings. Now they are coming into the buildings, which is a tremendous accomplishment that we've now been able to work out within the CB7 district, that the precincts will now come in because they do have more officers than PSA 6 does. And at the same time, none of the new recruits are over here because we need the seasonal officers. So kudos to having this meeting and bringing the rest of the board members up to speed on how it works over here at NYCHA, because this meeting needed to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, for your input and your feedback. We also have 2 of our members here, Irena Stennett. Do you have a question or comment for Detective Collado?
Thank you, Polly. I'm going to let Richard go first since he raised his hand before I did.
Oh,
Go ahead, Richard.
age before beauty. I'm going to ask you to comment on something that I read that the mayor said at his State of the City address. And if you don't want to comment on what the mayor said, I completely understand. But in his, according to the Times this morning, the mayor said that the 3 biggest causes of crime in the city are guns, homelessness, and mental illness. Would you agree with that assessment, or would you would you say that there are other significant causes?
Oh, wow. Okay. So thank you for your question. You're really putting me on the spot, huh?
I don't mean to, and I'd be I perfectly understand if you don't
No.
want to comment.
Yeah, no. I will try to, I was always taught to always respond to a question, and I'm going to try to be as honest as I can, but at the same time, I'm going to try to watch myself a little bit.
Understood.
So I will say this much. I agree with the mayor in that those three things do play a very crucial and important part as to why we are going through such a crime pandemic. Mental illness, especially, it's so prevalent in our community. Something that for a while, anyone who's worked within policing and law enforcement, we have known for a long time that mental illness is something that drives and leads things to a worse state. So is he absolutely right in that part? Yes, he is. Guns are absolutely an issue. The availability, how they come into our communities, the accessibilities that these individuals have, absolutely, it's something bigger. But there's other issues also that are way beyond me. Anything from financial difficulties and economic issues that may arise, as well as personal issues that are happening in the households. I will tell you briefly that one of our biggest problems within NYPD that we have is the domestic violence issues. A lot of the crimes that are happening behind closed doors that we are having to deal with. And although we may not always want to acknowledge it, but the pandemic did cause an increase in that and did create a bigger issue for us, because a lot of that stuff is happening behind closed doors, where although we're the police department, because of, remember, we have to operate within the laws and our rules and regulation. This is not NCIS or any other police program that you may watch on TV. We can't just hear something and kick in a door. That's not the way reality works. So a lot of times, again, we fall back and we become dependent on the residents and our community partners to, again, you see something, say something. Even if we can identify individuals, maybe we can reach out to these individuals on a separate manner, in a different manner, where we don't have to send, police officers with radios blasting to the doors. Maybe we can have more of a subtle effect, have other groups that are specific in nature that can better identify and help and relate to these individuals that are going through things. But again, the mayor is right in that we have a huge problem with our youth. We try everything possible to keep them, to engage with them, keep them busy, offer every type of program that we can. We lobby for assistance from anywhere from the communities, the businesses, to whomever, the politicians, whomever we can, to help us to create programs and avenues for the youth to become better engaged. Again, like anything else, the old saying, you can lead the horse to water, you can't make him drink. Having these programs and availabilities there for the youth is one thing. How do we get them to take it? How do we encourage them to take advantage of what is being offered, the importance that maybe they don't understand at that particular phase of what it is that they're letting go by? So yes, in short, I agree with the mayor, but there's more.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry for being late. I was trying to get home from work. And I missed your title.
I'm Detective Dave Claudio. I'm the one half of the Community Affairs Officer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have a comment and then I have a question, Detective Collado. My comment is, when I joined, I think I heard you talking about recruitment, and I want to make a suggestion, and if this is already happening, that's terrific, to think about reaching out to organizations like the Urban League, comparable organizations like that, in the Latin community, NAACP, and believe it or not, even some of the social justice groups that convened during 2020 after the murder of, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
Floyd?
Yes, after George Floyd's murder, because many of these nonprofit organizations have relationships with youth, and they're trusted among young people. And one of the issues around police brutality, the cases that have gotten attention, in many cases, it was, I think there, to your point, there's this perception that African-American or Black and brown young men and women feel threatened by police officers. And perhaps if the police joined ranks with some of the social justice organizations that can help recruit to increase diversity within the ranks. I mean, I think it exists already, don't get me wrong, especially here in New York City, but I think it's just another avenue for recruitment. And what I was going to say is yesterday, and I've seen motorcycles, I've seen the ATFs, particularly earlier this year and last year. But what I experienced yesterday, I had not seen before, which was about, I guess, 20, 25 young people, like really young, like teenagers, not on ATVs, but on bicycles. And it was almost 8 o'clock. And I was coming home from work. I was in a taxi. And I was coming up Central Park West, and they were going down. And they literally, several of them did wheelies in front of my taxi as my taxi was moving. And then the other ones were sort of circling around and getting, obstructing traffic and getting in the way of buses. And it really shook me because I'd never sort of been in traffic when that happened. And I wonder what the approach is going to, what is the NYPD's approach to this? Like, I know that they are against sort of chasing them, but with the summer months coming, I'm just concerned, what's the strategy? How are you going to be handling this as warmer days come? And I suspect that this will only increase in frequency. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for your question. Let me answer one at a time. Let me start off with the as far as recruitments. What you touched on, speaking of the suggestion of kind of working alongside the urban leagues and other Black and brown organizations, that already takes place. It's something that we've, for a long time, kind of put it out there and kind of tried to basically reach out to different individuals. It's something that even within our ranks, it's already seen. I'm of Dominican background, and I can tell you, I've never when I remember when I came on this job, I was one of the few people that spoke Spanish. They would constantly ask over the radio, we have a Spanish speaking officer on the air, and I would have to respond. I could tell you that we have such an amazing, large Hispanic Latin representation within the NYPD and amongst the different ranks. That's definitely something that, to me personally, is both encouraging and enlightening, something that I appreciate. Because again, I grew up in the city, and it's good. Again, the same thing that we often hear, where we want a representation of us to be part of this great organization that we work for, and to be a representation of the city, this amazing city that we live in. So again, that already takes place. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there seems to be a lot of interest. And again, with it's understandable with all the the different situations and events that have recently taken place, it's understandable. Who in the right mind would want to take on a job where now you become the face of that problem? You know, it's something in itself. So again, to your point or to your question, and that it already does take place. And when it comes now to the question about motorcycle, ATVs, and bikes, yes, you are absolutely correct. Bicycles is not something new, but it's something that has been happening for a while. The groups, we call them roving bands of individuals that travel from borough to borough. They come across the bridges to come in and basically ride up and down. And some of it to us is kind of a sign of the time. To be honest with you, we get them that they ride right in front of the PSA of our precinct. They come up, and by the tens, if not the hundreds, they come up and down 8th Avenue, and they ride right in front of our precincts, right in front of our police cars. And it's almost to gloat or to kind of like show a form of disrespect to us. Again, that's the sign of the time. Is again, I touched on that tougher skin. That's kind of something that we got to take in the chin, if you will. In response to that, what is the police department's approach of handling this? No, we do not chase them. God forbid we chase them and any of them become hurt, we become liable. Plus, we don't want to take a bad situation and make it worse. So no, we are not chasing them. What we try as best is using our presence, try to break them up as best as we can. If we can push them a certain direction, then that's what we're going to do. If we see that they're going a certain way, if they're riding down on Central Park West, we'll put a couple of cars in the way. Hopefully they will turn off. It usually works where they'll turn off and they'll either go through the park or they'll go back up. They don't want pretty much that interaction with us. Going forward, I know that the mayor had spoken about becoming a little bit more aggressive, perhaps in our handling of them, going after not only the individuals, but also trying to identify where they store the bikes, the motorcycles, the ATVs. One program that I can tell you that PSA 6 does is we actually rely on our TA presidents to identify locations where bicycles, both motorcycles and regular bikes, are being stored on NYCHA grounds. If they're chained to the fences or being stored in the hallways or vestibules of particular buildings, they identify them to let us know. And what we do is we have our NCOs usually go out in groups of maybe 4 to 6 or 8, and they'll collect those bikes. They'll go out with NYCHA, cut the chains, take possession of the bikes, remove them from the location.
All right, so thank you, Detective Collado. I see that there's a couple of hands raised, and Ethel Sheffer and Courtney and two in the attendees. For the sake of time, I'm going to ask whatever comments or questions that you have that, you kind of curtail it, because we had another section that we were going to bring into the meeting. I'm so happy that everyone has a lot of feedback that they would like to get information about. You can always submit your questions to myself and to William, the co-chair, to get them answered by Detective Collado, and be more than happy to make sure that they are responded to. So Ethel, if you're going to make a quick comment, please do so, and then we'll go on to Courtney. And I can't see who the attendees are, Max, so you can handle that.
Absolutely. After Ethel and then Courtney, we can go to the attendees.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can you hear me? I'm having more trouble with the camera and all. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Everything that we heard tonight from Officer Corrado, who's just great, and some of the other comments, and if I can say, Cynthia, we don't know each other, but if I could use your first name, I've heard you so many times in these last months commend, be a little bit upset, but commend, scold, welcome that the community board is in a dialogue and taking the focus now and wanting to work with and learn more, and above all, develop a little bit of an action plan about these very hard issues and the fact, and with especially the leaders at NYCHA. So what I heard, taking from the mayor and from other comments from Officer Corrado, I heard about guns, I heard about homelessness, and then about mental health issues. I'm leaving aside for a minute in what the thing about guns, which is gigantic and has to be dealt with on many levels. But I would hope by June, as we're a task force and we're going to be making some recommendations, that we begin to try to focus in an operational way on the following. I'm not as good at this as everybody else, but I'm going to try. One, that in terms of what Corrado said, excuse me, Detective Corrado, on the mental health issues, that occurs, you talked about family disputes, and that's, you said it's been rising, and that's within buildings. And then we have heard a great deal about mental health issues connected with homeless people. So what I think one of the things we got to start working on is the 24th and the PSA and some of the agencies that Arena mentioned and others did, begin to work together and try and get together with us trying to help direct, provide resources and advocacy so that we can begin to make a plan for June, July, just some action plans of collaboration of if 24th has more police and PSA doesn't, we've got to make sure that there is specifically an action plan to deploy appropriately and necessarily and work together. And the community board, just one example, and I'll end in another minute, because I want to say just one thing about Arena's point, and that is that to set up, these are huge problems, but we can begin to focus, what can we do? How many need to be deployed? What's the collaboration? How can the police work together in, let's say, the next 3 months? The last thing is Arena and others, the motorcycles, everything you described, almost every night and day are on Broadway. They are on Riverside Drive. They've been on West End Avenue, and it's an organized crowd. And everything you described, going up and down, and so on. This is something that I remember, I think it was Inspector Noguchi or others said, we are trying to get to stop them before they come in droves and organize from the north. That, I think, is something throughout the district, and I think has to be focused on as a major point. Bicycles are another thing. The motorcycles and all are military, they're deliberate, they're dangerous.
Thank you, Ethel. Okay, we're going to move on to Courtney.
Hi. I think a quick question, but may actually necessitate an answer after the fact. Don't need the answer right now. My question is, I actually co-chair youth education in libraries, and tomorrow night we are talking about youth programming, specifically the need for what we can do for the youth that are centered up in Douglas houses and that area. And so my question for Detective Collado is, because I wrote down and then I started and highlighted, we have a huge problem with youth. We offer all these programs, and how do we encourage them to take advantage of what they're letting go by? My question for you, this can be in a follow-up email later, is are there things that you would suggest, things that you've seen working, things that you think are missing, gaps in what we have available, or things where you've seen us pour money, resources, effort, time, and fail? All of that kind of context that went into that statement, I'd love to have more information of, and it can be an email. And Polly and William, I'll let you pass along information for me so we don't have to belabor that right now. But I would love more context on that comment.
Thank you, Courtney. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. Great question, Courtney. I appreciate that. I can move to, I see Maria first and then Jenya. Go ahead, Maria, you should be allowed to speak now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Hi, good evening. I'll also make it quick because I know there's other people who want to speak. Just a quick question for Detective Collado and just a comment about the overview that Ethel just provided, which I thought was great as a way to move forward. We didn't really, or you haven't really covered small businesses and perhaps how small businesses might, whether you've seen any things that are working to cut down on shoplifting. I know that recently the community has approved additional security cameras through the participatory budgeting process. So I think that's a real positive thing. So really my question, and again, it doesn't have to be tonight, but just going forward, I'm just wondering if you could perhaps, provide some more information for the small business community around ideas that might help, and whether this committee could take that on as something that you could include in your recommendations going forward so that we can provide very specific, concrete suggestions to small businesses. And especially, I know there's a lot of problems with the pharmacies. Many communities really need those pharmacies. So, that's just a general sort of approach that I hope this committee could take on as it goes forward in looking at public safety issues. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. And the task force will be taking on that issue with the bid. I mean, we do have Doug Kleinman on as well, and we have others who work with the business community. So that's one of the issues that we will be addressing as well. So thank you for your comment and your question.
Thanks.
Absolutely. We're going to go to Jenya now. Go ahead, click the prompt, and you should be able to speak.
Hi, guys. I'm a neighbor and a PTA representative from PS 145, which is on 104th and Amsterdam Avenue. My son is in the second grade, and we have an ongoing problem with the playground on the after-school hours. There is a lot of youth coming in with knives and small weapons. And right now in the meeting, we have a couple parents also, and they had a problem. The knife was pointing out to their kids. It's really getting more dangerous. And I know it's everywhere as soon as it's getting warmer. It's happening a lot of everywhere, but I wanted to ask the detective and if the PCA 6 is covering like a playground, or what can we do more to have maybe police present on the playground not constantly, but maybe it's been every single day the police been called on the playground because of something. So this has been getting very dangerous to the point we have it's elementary school and we have a middle school in the building. So my thing is, if they had the other day there was a boy with the two knives that I personally saw. It was cutting knife, like a cutting boxes knife, and it was a little other knife. But if they had them on them after school, which just means they had it on them during the school. So this gets very alarming. It's not safe having a pre-K. Next year, we're gonna have a 3K in our school building. And this is a big new playground that everybody want to be with. So I'm trying to point it out attention to this matter. It's one of the biggest playgrounds right now in this little area. And it's right by the Douglas buildings. Thank you.
Okay, so if you can, thank you for your question. What playground, can you tell me the location of the playground again?
It's by the PS 145. It's on 100 and West 104th and Amsterdam Avenue.
It's the Bloomingdale Inclusive Park and Playground.
Yes, I know exactly where it is. Okay, so basically, what I can do is I can have in regards to PSA 6, I can have our NCOs, our neighborhood community officers, become more aware, and by the time they usually come in around 2-ish, I can have them try to pay special attention to that area around, in and around the park. What I can also do is I can forward any concerns to the 24th precinct and see if maybe in collaboration, perhaps we can come to some type of a way where maybe during school dismissal or right immediately after school, we can have some type of a police presence around there, whether it could be something as simple as, the sector concern. If they're not on a job, perhaps they can park right in front of it to try to create a visibility and deter anything from happening. As well, again, our PSA, our officers, our sectors, as well as our NCOs and YCOs, have them responsible respond to the area and make them more available and visible in the area to kind of help deter everything. We can't always deter everything completely, but any type of an effect that we can have positive effect will help.
Thank you so much, Detective Collado. I don't know if anyone else has their hand raised in the attendees area, Max, but right now, do we have anyone?
No, just those that already spoke.
Okay, so at this point, what we're going to do is just kind of close this part of the discussion. Any questions or comments that you have, please forward it to William and myself for the task force. We will make sure you get a response. I want to thank you, Detective Collado and Detective Cheatham, if you're there, and also Diane Blackwell. Our PSA 6 Community Council meetings are held every second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. Right now, we're still doing virtual meetings, but when we do have meetings in person, they're usually held up at West 148th Street, Frederick Douglass Boulevard. So we make sure that that information, which we did post online on our CB7 website as well, that's there. So I am so glad that you guys were able to join us this evening. I just want to thank you so much for being so thorough and transparent and, the world that we all are living in now and all that you guys do. I just want to say thank you for sacrificing your lives and your time to keep us safe. So we appreciate you.
Well, thank you on behalf of not only myself and Detective Cheatham, but also on behalf of all the personnel here at PSA 6. A simple act of just taking the time to hear us out and try to understand exactly what it is that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. It means the world to us, and it gives us a form of appreciation that we may not always feel or receive. So again, thank you to Community Board 7, to all the individuals who expressed some interest and asked questions. I wish I could answer everyone's questions. I welcome anybody. Just personally reach out to myself or Detective Cheatham, and whatever questions or issues that we can help with, we're always here to assist in any which way. Thank you all. God bless you.
All right. Good evening. Okay, so William, I believe you were going to talk about the situation that Natasha and also was just mentioned regarding the playground.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. We're going to hop into old business and new business, but I want to start with new business first, since we just brought it up. Max, I see a Naveed as a participant. Could we bring him up as a panelist?
Yes, absolutely. Let me do that.
So just to recap, Polly and I received an email from Courtney and Natasha in regards to essentially what Jenya just spoke about kids being in playgrounds, having fights, showing knives, and it's just creating this unsafe environment. Naveed is also an eyewitness to this. And Naveed, would you like to speak and kind of share with the community what you've experienced?
Thanks everyone on CB7 and especially the safety task force. We've been having, I'm actually a parent at PS 145. I've been at the school since 2018, and I'm also serving currently on the Community Education Council for District 3. So I have some familiarity with all of the elementary and middle schools in our district on the Upper West Side, Morningside Heights, and the southern part of Harlem. And some of the issues that I'm seeing are actually very localized to near Frederick Douglass houses. And they're popping up a lot more in the last 6 to 8 weeks. I want to say the 6 weeks ago it started, and it's getting worse and worse. So I'm there usually for pickup. I work from home. I've been working from home since long before COVID. So I have a lot of flexibility that way, but I usually hang out in the playground, just doing my work while the kids are playing. And recently I've been seeing, beginning, I guess, what month is it? April. So in February, it was like once a week. Kids would come, and I would say these children are middle school-ish. They're not very old. They're young teenagers at most, in large groups, and just play basketball. And they started getting rowdier and rowdier. So as time has been going on, these sort of 20 unsupervised middle school age kids from like 245 onwards are starting to engage in rougher and rougher behavior. They're friends. They're still together day after day, but like they pick each other up and throw like a child into Amsterdam Avenue while a bus is approaching from 3 blocks away. So this is a game that they're playing. It's really dangerous. One day, one of them is going to get run over. So we try to really put an end to that. There's a patrol car already parked every day at 2:35, which is when the schools have dismissal, on the corner of 104th and Amsterdam, on the south side of that intersection. So right across, right in front of the hostel that's on that intersection. But I guess initially it helped. The kids wouldn't be misbehaving, and actually they disappeared for a while. But then they sort of learned at what time the patrol car left, and we're starting to see them in the last couple of weeks show up in the same location and Bloomingdale Playground around 4 o'clock. And now in the last month or so, they started, one kid had a knife. Now one child has two, like a box cutter and a knife. I've seen a 6 to 8 inch, like a kitchen knife, and they're playing with it. They're like hand it back and forth to each other. And this is
If Naveed, if you can hear us, you may have lagged out, or.
Naveed, just jumping in here, this is Max. You might want to turn your camera off and your audio might improve.
So until we saw the weapons, we were trying to handle it ourselves as a school community. We're trying to identify where these kids are coming from. It's not easy because while the elementary school has uniforms, the middle school I don't think is mandatory. And I'm not sure they're from our middle school. They might be, they might not be. So I don't want to speak to that. But the police has been regularly called. I saw there were 15 officers called for this 2-knife incident on Monday at about 4 p.m. So today is Wednesday. Yeah, so it was just recently. And we have a wellness ambassador program at the DOE as part of the COVID relief funding. So a parent at PS 145 is helping a couple of the district schools, Saul Robbins. He couldn't be here today, but he has been liaising with the 24th precinct. He helped set up the patrol car on the corner. It doesn't seem to be helping in a way that we would like. We would like to try to identify the root cause, right? Should these kids be in after school? I mean, I feel like they shouldn't be wandering around in large groups unsupervised for 3 hours every afternoon. That's causing a lot of these idle hands issues. And I'm not sure whether the police can solve this problem by themselves. It has to be some other way. It has to be both enforcement and also identifying like which schools are they coming from? Do they have an after school program? 145 and West Prep are both Title I schools. So funding is always an issue. Having programs is always a difficulty. So as a CEC Education Council member, that's something that is very like something I'm very aware of and I like try to help with. But I need to know who the children are, which schools they go to, and I would like to help in a constructive fashion to make sure that this doesn't spiral out of control. The parents are terrified. We had a girl that is in 4th grade at 145 that was threatened with a knife. And now the whole family doesn't even come to the playground anymore. They go immediately home from the school, and that's just a shame, right? I can add more information as I get questions from anyone here, but I'll stop right now and see what we can do together. Thank you.
Thank you, Naveed. Courtney, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, Naveed. Thanks for this, and thanks for the original email, and thanks for pushing this forward. Thank you for all of it. Question for you, that patrol car. So it sounds like it's coming every day, but it's leaving. Are the officers getting out of the car? And do we think maybe some foot patrols might help this, in addition to obviously having other places for them to go per?
Yeah. So from what I've never seen them out unless a 911 call has been made. So that's obviously one thing that if they were actually circulating, that would help more than just having a car parked across the street. So yeah, while I've been in the playground, the only time I've seen the officers themselves is when someone called 911 already. So, and then they respond immediately. I've seen 6 cars show up in 30 seconds, and then there's 20 officers in the playground suddenly. So, but that seems a bit late, right? It would be better.
Right, better to be in front of the problem.
Yeah, yes.
Doug, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Naveed just answered the question I was going to ask, which is that in real time, when these incidents are occurring, is anyone calling 911? I think it's very important to do that each and every time. The NYPD will make a determination and prioritize it as they mentioned today, but there should be no hesitation in calling 911 anytime there is a serious threat. So that, besides the fact that you're going to get a real-time response, it also will be going into the data system, which then does help, hopefully, in allocating patrols, now and in the future. So I just encourage everyone, anytime there's anyone, particularly a person that's young, that is in danger, nobody should hesitate calling 911 each and every time.
Okay. Mark, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess I'm not sure, and maybe if somebody knows, if there are specific markings on the patrol cars indicating whether the patrol is a youth coordinating officer, a neighborhood coordinating officer, or a regular vehicle from the precinct or the PSA 6. Because this playground is so close by a public housing project, having, pardon the duplicity of this, the duplication of this, but having coordination among all those coordinating officers would really seem to be the right thing, between the YCOs at PSA 6 and the YCOs at the 24th. Hate for this to be the kind of thing that it is determined on whether you're on the north or south side of 104th Street in order to get the right group together. Anyway, to the extent that that can be an addition to whatever is thought of here, that certainly makes sense to me. Thanks for highlighting this.
William, can I make a comment?
Yes, please, Molly, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the comments, I wanted to ask Naveed, are there school safety officers assigned to these schools, like at 3 o'clock, or, have they observed, have they created any intervention plan? Has anyone sat down with the principal of these schools, or the school safety officers to set up some kind of schedule where they could monitor what's going on after school? Because you mentioned some after school programs as well.
Yeah, so a little bit of, I guess, inside baseball. The playground and the schoolyard are New York City Parks Department property.
Okay.
So after 2:35 p.m., the school is no longer able to patrol those spaces, partially because they're doing something inside the school building for after school. So I don't see any school safety officers after hours because they have responsibilities inside the building. Parks employees are often, well, sometimes they used to be in the beginning, but now I don't see parks people around that often either. So the only adults in the playground are the parents after school, so after 2:35. There was one incident that involved a child getting in a fight and then running into the school, and I think it happened about 2.5 weeks ago. And this, the 24th precinct knows a lot about, because the entire precinct was there. I saw, I believe, 15 police cars. Deputy Inspector Yaguchi was there himself. Parents came out to defend their kids and started fighting. So that spilled over into the school after school. And at that point, the principals were involved, but that was just a single incident. Almost all the other stuff is happening in the Parks Department playground after school hours. So there are no school safety officers at that time. Yeah.
Right, and it's my understanding that there's something called PEP officers that the Parks Department, Park Enforcement Patrol. Have you reached out to them?
At this point, I have not. I will connect with Saul Robbins again, our point person from the school who's been trying to work with the 24th precinct. I'll also inform him about PSA 6 and then also these PEP officers that are Park Department. Thank you for letting me know about that.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Who is next? Shelly, Arena. Who had their hand first?
I'll
Believe
defer
I
to
did.
Arena.
Okay,
ahead.
Arena, go for it.
Thank you. Excuse me. Trying to eat dinner. I think we have to be careful when we talk about calling police on groups of young people. I think if there's fighting, if there's weapons, as Naveed described, I think it warrants a 911 call. But if there's 10 young people horsing around in the playground and there are no weapons displayed and they probably are a little disruptive, but I wouldn't want the police called for that. And I think we have to be very careful when we notify the police, when we call the police. And I think I just want to say that because I've walked through the community seeing groups of young people all the time, horsing around and playing on Broadway in Central Park, you know, and so I just get a little concerned about when police are called. And I do agree with Naveed that if any young person is brandishing a knife, a box cutter, any kind of weapon, pipe, whatever, 911 should be called immediately. And the second thing I wanted to say, and I'm glad, Polly, the problem with PEP is that the number of PEP per borough is astonishingly low. And they're largely allocated or assigned to the large parks, not typically playgrounds, just because there aren't enough of them. And it's probably something to bring up with the Parks Committee, because I do think having park enforcement or rangers, just the presence of a uniform, I do think would act as a deterrent. But right now, the number of PEP officers is just, they could never cover playgrounds. They just don't have enough of them. But I do think we should engage the Parks Department. And maybe it's a joint meeting of youth and this task force and parks to really prepare for the summer and work with the borough commissioner, the Manhattan Borough Commissioner, to talk about what plan can be put in place as we enter the summer months. So I'm sorry I haven't attended this meeting more frequently, but I'm delighted that Will and Polly have taken this on because it's just critically important. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Irena. Sheldon, you're next.
Yeah, first of all, factually, it's not just a Parks Department facility, it's both the Parks Department and DOE facility jointly. We formed the task force on the community board to build that playground and the field. And now myself and two other people, including Sedalia Costa from the West Prep, are co-directors of that group. We managed to get the field closed during the after school. That took a long time to accomplish for the safety issues. But I think that what I hear happening there is a lot of strong efforts, but not coordinated efforts. I think you need a task force of the two principals, okay? Parents, representatives, other people, the park attendant, okay, that's assigned there, and anybody and everybody else, and of course the precinct, to meet and to coordinate what's going on and to plan. If not, it'll be, today we call 911 3 times, something's more serious, less serious. It's not solving the problem. It's, it's dealing with the immediate situation each time. So I think bringing together those, I don't want to call them stakeholders, but people who have something to say about the lives of the children and the park and the playground would be a smart idea, okay? And to actually meet in the school, okay? And decide on a plan that's coordinated, let the parents know what the plan is, that there is an issue, and come up with some solutions and see if those solutions work, including possibly, because Detective Collado was on tonight, he said he's going to try to get onto it, okay, with his resources. But I think that if he's doing something and the school's doing something and 24th's doing something and parents doing something, it's not going to work so as well. So that's my recommendation.
Awesome. Thank you, Sheldon. Courtney, you can go next.
Just real quick, I just want to follow up what Arena had said. Naveed was pretty clear that he said the parents have been working on this just themselves with the school until the knives made an appearance, and then they started to interact with the police. So just want to be really clear that I actually think they did do what Arena was saying to do, and we are now at a point where we have passed the point of this is just about the schools and does actually require the police when you've got weapons coming out. So I just wanted to be clear that I think that is exactly what had happened and doesn't make Arena wrong, but it doesn't reflect what we heard tonight. Thanks.
Naveed, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. That's exactly what we were trying to do. I was the Title I PAC chair.
Naveed, if you can, I guess, turn off your.
Oh, sorry.
If you
Building
can,
up the
repeat
capacity.
that.
Yeah, sorry, I shut my video off. I'm the Title I PAC chair for our school. I was. The election just passed.
Okay. Well, we want to continue this. If anyone else has anything else to add to this topic, I would like for us to continue it for next month's meeting.
Okay.
We're going to add that to our agenda. If anyone else is good, we can move on to the next item.
Yeah, and just one thing for Shelley. Shelley, I'm on the Friends of group for the
I know
the area. So I've been in meetings with Sedalia and yourself. We don't know where these kids are coming from. They might not. They're not. Sedalia. I spoke with her, and she said that they're not from her middle school, and they're older. They're too old to be elementary school kids. So we do need an outside party to help us identify who the adults are.
I'm all for it, but I think if everybody sits down together and says this is the plan we're going to use and let everybody know it so everyone could support it, then it can be evaluated as it's going along. Is this working? Okay,
Agreed.
and if it's not working, what else could be done? So it's just to get more structure to the how this is being targeted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And can I just say that I do think that Will and Polly, that if Board 7 is going to serve as the convener for this group, that we also identify the nonprofit youth programs, because Shelley mentioned, well, we closed the field. And maybe if there was an organized youth group, that field could be open a little while longer, organized, monitored, and then when the activity concludes, lock it back up. But the thing is, you've got these young people with nothing to do. I don't know why they don't have nothing, they don't have anything to do. I don't know why. But we have to find something. We have to be proactive. We have a youth committee, and I'm not saying we're not. I don't mean to be critical at all. I'm just saying that, like, we lock up a field, and then where do they go? Well, they're going to migrate to the playground, right? So I don't think they should be unsupervised. I think we have to do, and we probably already know, the youth organizations that are in Manhattan Valley and Bloomingdale, and say, hey guys, we need help. We need someone to organize some athletic activity during these hours of the day, so that when young people show up, they don't gravitate to the playground that's really designed for younger children, but there's someone here that can help plan some activities for them. And, you know, Richard knows this very well, because Richard was very involved in Boys Harbor for years. And a lot of those kids came from Schomburg Plaza in East Harlem. Young people want what a lot of other kids just get by virtue of the school, the private schools or the public schools they're lucky enough to have organized extracurriculum. And then there's a whole swath of kids that don't have it. And that's where the nonprofit community comes in. And so I hope when we convene that we bring in some of these nonprofit, and maybe Courtney can help identify it, and Cynthia.
We're literally talking about this topic tomorrow at YAL.
Perfect.
Literally, this is our topic tomorrow. I mentioned that earlier. This is literally.
No, I heard you mention it earlier, but I'm just making the suggestion that when there is a multi-age, when everyone comes together, Shelley, Parks, all of these different committees, and we bring Parks Department, Board of Ed, Naveed, all of these different groups, just to consider including nonprofit organizations in the conversation. We fund them through, you know, the work that we do, so I know that they're up there, and I'm just suggesting we include them. That's all.
Okay, so with that, I don't know if there's any more hands raised. Max or William, you can see that.
No, I think we're good here. We're going to conclude new business. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up in regards to old business? Doug.
Well, actually, I think I would probably consider this more as new business, but basically, we are aware of the arrest that happened. I think some of us should be aware of the arrest that happened. There was an individual that was arrested for 7 alleged robberies. 5 of them were, I believe, in our district. These were robberies at gunpoint with some of the fruit stands, a taco truck, and also a brick and mortar store. Very happy to hear that the suspect was arrested, but it was a big concern. And I spoke to a couple of the fruit truck vendors who were terrified, and I think one of them also got hit twice. So it may be a moot issue. I'd like to follow up. One of the reports, I believe it was in the West Side Rag, indicated that the report charges were U.S. Code unclassified, which I don't really know. I'd like to know what this individual is being charged with, and I'd like to follow along and make sure this person, this is a very serious crime. I have to imagine that it was bailable. Anyway, a positive outcome that there was an arrest, but it was very terrifying.
That's good to hear, Doug. Was that the same robbery that was at the new taqueria that's on Amsterdam that I read?
I believe it was. It was a fruit stand, also Broadway, 86th Street between Broadway and Amsterdam. It was also, the Tasty Burrito was hit at 350 Amsterdam, 76th, 77th in Amsterdam. Another taco truck on 70th Street. It's fairly well documented in some of the press, but perhaps the next time, we can hear from. It actually looks like it spans between the 2.0 and the 2.4 precincts. So, again, some good news, but some terrifying news for a couple of days there. I think these happened starting on April 16th and went through around the 19th or 20th of April. But anyway, just wanted to mention that there's other, goings on in our neighborhood, but that one really got my attention.
Amazing. Thank you, Doug. Thank you for that update.
Thanks. Sure.
Mark, I see your hand is up, please.
Yeah, just to connect a dot with what Doug was saying, and Richard may know this area much better than me, but in my experience, federal unclassified usually it has something to do with interstate commerce jurisdiction, specifically with guns. So it could be that there's a further connection to be made, and if that means that law enforcement is paying attention to the availability of guns, that's a good thing in my view.
Go ahead, Richard.
Doug, if you can get me, if you know the name of the individual who's arrested, I can try to track it down in court.
Well, this is a matter of public record. I can tell you right now, it says that it was reported, looks like, says Ryan Little, 37, from Harlem, allegedly robbed a taco truck in front of 2030 and went on. This is the gentleman, Ryan Little, 37, from Harlem. That's
Little.
Yep.
I'll see what I can find.
Yep. Thanks.
And it was a federal arrest.
It says the police said that the charges were U.S. code unclassified. The suspect, is being charged federally. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
No description
Okay.
of the suspect was given.
I'll see if I can find it.
Great, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So with that, I believe there's no one else has anything they want to bring up in regards to old business. A motion for the meeting to end. Any second?
Motion to adjourn and to thank the co-chairs for a great meeting.
Yes, here.
Thank you.
And the
Appreciate
public.
that.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
And the public, thank you for coming.
Yes.
Yes.
And the public too, of course.
Public participation, yes, absolutely. Amazing. Well, everyone, please enjoy your evening and finish your meal or start your meal.
Or start your meal.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Looking forward to seeing everyone next month.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.